Hi there, I made a Poisey build recently, Strength Arcane build, made a video about it, posted it on YouTube, you might have watched it. This is another video about the same build, and in this one I want to gripe a little bit about something. So, this is a Strength Arcane build. The weapons that I use are typically bleed infused, and that will allow me to keep pretty good strength scaling and give me decent arcane scaling on a weapon. As well as, build up blood loss, which is nice. This weapon right here, I'm using the Troll's Golden Greatsword, and it's got Waves of Darkness on it, which is a great Ash of War for when you're trapped in narrow hallways or up against, cornered by 3 people or something. Waves of Darkness is really good in that sort of situation. I mainly use, on this build, a bleed-infused Watchdog Greatsword with Stamp Sweep. And it's really nice. It hits twice. The Watchdog Greatsword builds up blood loss, pretty quickly because it's a Colossal Sword against an opponent that is, lightly armored. You can proc blood loss pretty quickly, and that's nice. But moreover, I can use Stamp Sweep as a heal punish. So, if someone takes a drink of a flask trying to heal, and I'm close enough, I can do Stamp Sweep, and I can probably do more damage than they are going to heal. And, that's nice. And that's kind of the whole... that's the best balancing in terms of, PvP that I think Elden Ring has, is that you have these moves that do a bunch of damage and are basically good heal punishes, which is, a thing that I've talked about before is how I enjoyed Bloodborne PvP, which is not an opinion you hear a whole lot. But in Bloodborne, if you tried to heal against your opponent and they pressed L2, they would shoot your character, and you could parry someone from a heal. And if you parried someone while they were healing, you got to do a bunch of damage, right? And take a visceral or a riposte or whatever you want to call it. Elden Ring is kind of similar in that regard. In theory, you would think that the L2s would be sort of answers to stuff. L2s having hyper armor would make, an Ash of War having hyper armor would sort of give the Ash of War something to do in a situation where the weapon might typically not have something to do. You might have a weapon that, is in a situation where it needs hyper armor, the Ash of War gives it hyper armor, or you might have a really fast weapon that needs an attack that hits all around it, so you give it Spin Slash, right? The Ashes of War sort of represent answers to problems that a weapon has, and then alternatively, they can be a nice heal punish. And so, the problem that I want to gripe about a little bit is that the other stomp attack, the stomp uppercut, it's just too slow. It's too slow. And I love that Ash of War, and going back to Dark Souls 3, I loved it. And I love it in Elden Ring as well. But it's too slow. As a dude who does a lot of PvP and streams and makes YouTube videos, a thing that people often talk to me about changes that they want to see, and the problem that a lot of people have is not understanding how implementing the change that you would like to see would affect the PvE, the regular single player game experience. That experience will always take priority and come before everything else, because in 25 years or whatever, when the servers for this game have gone offline, people will still be able to turn on the game and play it and experience it, and generally have the same experience as people who had it 25 years ago, just without all the online stuff. Someone who buys Demon Souls, and not the remake, but the OG original Demon Souls. If somebody were to go buy that on the PlayStation 3 and play it right now, they would experience it more or less the same way as people who experienced it 15 years ago or whatever. And so any changes that you make to a game for PvP, like you have to remember that like if they would negatively affect the balance or the way things work in PvE, it's just not going to happen. This is one of those changes that would not negatively affect anything. There's no reason for any Ash of War to be slower than a Flask. It's just like it doesn't negatively affect anything. In terms of the PvE, you're not breaking anything PvE wise by making Stomp launch a little bit quicker. And that's kind of like in a perfect world, Ashes of War would kind of have to like walk this line where they sort of are, covering up a weakness that a weapon has, like giving it hyper armor, or acting as a heal punish, as something that you can do when your opponent is healing, or in the case of PvE, when you've like staggered your opponent, or you're close to staggering your opponent, or something like that. But the problem is like Moonveil, right? It just has this Ash of War that you can just spam, and it's pretty safe to do so. It's not like you're not really putting yourself in a whole lot of danger against that. But Moonveil is also kind of the thing that I like to balance everything against, like in my head. It would increasing the speed of Stomp launch, would it make Moonveil worse? No, not really. You would probably still, break people out of it because the fact that it hits twice, it is, it's doing poise damage twice. So it doesn't matter how much poise you have. You're getting hit twice. You're probably not going to be able to, stomp launch through it. Not the heavy attack, maybe the light attack. That heavy attack also, like, it feels like it's headshotting or something. I don't know. It just seems to be impossible to really poise through anything in regards to that heavy Moonveil attack. But my point is if we made Stomp launch better, if we made it a little faster, it's not like it's suddenly on par with Moonveil, right? That's one of, like, I've said this on live streams. I don't know if I've ever talked about it in a video. One of the reasons I really like the Regalia of Eocade and the Marius Executioner Sword is because their Ashes of War are just so perfectly designed as heal punishes. They have a little bit of hyper armor, but they are obviously like really good heal punishes. They do more damage than anybody heals, but if you just try and spam it, like, it's not necessarily good, right? Just spamming Regalia of Eocade, or I'm sorry, the Dancing Blade of Eocade, that the Ash of War. Just spamming that Ash of War is not going to get you anywhere. But it, as a heal punish or as like a hyper armor trade, it's brutal. And in my opinion, it's one of like the best balanced Ashes of War in Elden Ring. And I wish more Ashes of War were like that. And I obviously Moonveil is overtuned, right? But I'm not one of those people who's like screaming from the mountaintops that we need to nerf Moonveil. If they left it alone, like, that's fine. It's just one of those weapons you just can't take your eye off of, And yeah, it's stronger than every other weapon in its class. It's overtuned, but like, I don't feel like it's that big of a deal. So I don't want this to come off as like it should be as good as Moonveil. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying if we compare it to Moonveil, increasing the speed of Stomp launch isn't gonna make it top tier suddenly. In PvE or in PvP, which is why it's one of those things where I'm like, I think it would be fine if they increased the speed on it. Anyway, that's been my TED Talk on Stomp launch. It makes me sad because I so love Stomp launch, and I would love to be able to use it as a heal punish. You couldn't do that in Dark Souls 3. You can't do it in Elden Ring, although it's a little closer, but not quite. you know. We have the Poison Ash of War Bleed Infused Warped Axe. And that thing is a lot of fun. I don't know why the Warped Axe is so good on arcane builds, but yeah, it does be doing good. And then I've got the Spectral Lance on the Gargoyle's Halberd. And this is kind of like my, you know, hammer don't hurt 'em halberd. I'm pretty sure that the Knight Rider's Glaive, the Knight Cavalry Halberd, is the better halberd for this build, which I do have on the build, but the Gargoyle's kind of cute, you know? And it has the nice moveset, it does good damage and everything. But it doesn't have the obscene range that the Knight Cavalry does. So it's kind of my, I need a good weapon, but I don't need it to be that good in the moment type of weapon. I might have changed my mind about that after seeing them absolutely delete these omens with a bunch of projectiles. But, you know, what are you going to do? We've also got the Iron Greatsword, which is a great strength greatsword. And if you're looking for this moveset, you know, the up and down, pretty standard chop moveset on a strength build, Iron Greatsword is the way to go. I think if you're looking for the swooshy Greatsword moveset with those really flourished, faster light attacks, I think Banished Knight Greatsword is the way to go. And these people have a pet invader now. They've knocked me into the sewer, or I have retreated into the sewer, I guess. And I was expecting them to follow me, but then they decided that they didn't want to do that. They were happy and content to just have me be here. And you can kind of see most of the weapons that I have on this build at the moment. And these these three are not really in any hurry to come down here. Understandable, I guess. But I wish that they would, you know. But eventually, one of them makes a mistake and comes too close to the cage, looking for the invader. And wouldn't you know it, it's like a Resident Evil journal entry. They trapped a monster, they lost the monster, and then the monster killed them. Itchy, tasty. And now that it's just a 2v1 in that big empty hallway, I feel a little more confident in my odds. Because that's one less guy throwing projectiles. So the Bull Goat guy seems to be pretty, you know, melee based. The host definitely a projectile lord. But yeah, now that they're down one it's insane how much an invasion will change when there is one less guy hurling projectiles at you. It's incredible how much better you will do in a situation like that. I've got the Spectral Lance on the Gargoyle Halberd, which is an arcane Ash of War. So the damage on it is like okay. I imagine if you went like full arcane, the damage on it would be you know, really good. On this build, it's just kind of okay, but it's nice because it gives me something to like hurl at people who just spam projectiles, especially slow-moving projectiles, like the floating skulls. Just the most annoying spells, you know. Let's see if Xerxes has what it takes here. Look at the hyper armor on the running attack. That's brutal. Go for it. Oh, did that not go how you wanted, Xerxes? That's sad. How absolutely sad. If you guys are curious, look at the level. Look at the runes. Look at how many runes I got off Xerxes. What level were you, Xerxes? Anyway, if you guys are curious about the build, the stats are here at the end of the video for you to have a look, as well as my beautiful stomp launch that they need to buff. But here you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you next time. Until then, later, y'all.